Hey everyone, so I have been truly blessed with a lot of new followers, and with those new followers they might not understand completely my story, so here it is. So my cancer journey started with melanoma on the top of my foot. It was your standard mole that turned black. The surface of it raised up and started to become smooth, and I was a runner at the time, just finished my first half marathon, and it was irritating because it was on the top of my foot, which rubbed on my running shoes. With that one, I had to have a skin graft taken from my hip. They wanted to take it from my butt, and I was like, no way am I having a butt on my foot. Anyways, so they did the skin graft from my hip and did the skin graft and that was it. It was a surgery that was pretty gross to look at, but there was no treatments, there was no radiation, nothing like that. It was, I call it a one and done, because it was just surgery. To be honest with you, I was still new to cancer and didn't really care to know much about it because there was no treatments behind it, and to be honest with you, I was young. I didn't really care to know much. So I don't even know what stage it was. So moving forward, I think it was like 7 years later, I started having blood in my stool, and I went to the doctor, and I was told I had IBS-C and was super constipated. Well, 2 months later, I ended up finding out that I became pregnant, and kind of focused my shift on that for a little bit, but it became apparent something was wrong because I started having a lot more blood in the toilet. And so it was in my second trimester that I finally was able to get in to see a GI specialist, and unfortunately he did want to do a colonoscopy, but he couldn't because I'd have to be put under, and at that stage in my pregnancy he did not want to put me under to have the colonoscopy done, so I had to wait. So I ended up giving birth, and I was told that after I healed from my C-section, I could call and schedule a colonoscopy. Mind you, at this point, I have so much blood in the toilet, I cannot even see the bottom of it. It was freakishly weird. I was always sore. It was pretty intense. So I finally heal about 6 weeks to 2 months later, and I call to schedule my colonoscopy. The lady says I have to wait 6 weeks, and I was like, really? Because A, B, and C is going on. Are we sure I have to wait? Oh yeah, you have to wait. Okay. So I wake up to the GI and my husband and my 5-month-old who's sitting in the stroller, and he proceeds to tell us that he couldn't complete the colonoscopy because he couldn't get the scope past the tumor that was inside my rectum, and that I have cancer, and it's being sent off to figure out what stage and treatment plan, etc., etc. So I'm a little bit older and wiser this time around, so cancer is a little bit more of a concern. So we find out that I have stage 3 rectal cancer. I am going to have 28 treatments, 5 times a week, radiation. I'm also going to be taking Xeloda, which is a chemo pill, every day, and also wait 30 days, have surgery to remove the tumor, have a robotic resection done along with putting in a loop temporary, hopefully, we don't really know, ileostomy put in place while the resection is healing. And after that, we will have a port put in for me to have 12 rounds of chemo. So the chemotherapy consists of, like I said, 6 treatments. It is 3.5 hours every other week, and I leave after 3.5 hours with a pump that's a slow drip chemo for 48 hours. So basically that's like, hey ladies, why don't you hang on to your purse all day. Take a shower with it, go to sleep with it, do your dishes with it, go everywhere with it, go to the bathroom with it. It was so annoying. Anyways, so I had those treatments, and I ended up only doing 10 out of 12. My platelet count got way too low. I started getting really sick and deteriorating really bad. So all my scans and everything after that came back good. So that was the go for me to get my ileostomy reversed, which means taken out, stoma get put back in. Stoma is basically your intestines outside of your body. Anyways, it was confirmed. I was able to have it reversed, had that done, but then I ended up getting C. diff in the hospital. C. diff is pretty gnarly. It's basically you go to the bathroom a lot, and like I say, a lot, like a lot. And you also get nauseous with any kind of I remember getting car sick. Like I couldn't even ride in the car. It was an awful experience. So anyways, I was able, and they contact the CDC about it too. So anyways, went through that, got on medicine, got through that, and guess what? I went back to work because I wasn't going to sit around. I had to work. It was not necessarily a choice. Our family had to get some income rolling in, and I pushed through it and got a job. That job ended up being probably my most favorite job I've ever had in my career. And in that time, I had to have a hernia repair done. I have a mesh inside my abdomen. Because of the robotic ileostomy, tumor removal, resection, blah, 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 I ended up having an incisional hernia created due to that. So had hernia repair, and then COVID hit. But in our household, COVID wasn't the concern. I ended up starting getting a really bad pain in my leg that would not allow me to walk. Mind you, I'm still working, but now I'm working, limping, complaining of pain with a cane. It was ridiculous. I don't think I had a cane yet, but I was walking funny, that's for sure. My oncologist, even before this, because we complained about pain and talked about it, he put me through physical therapy thinking there was, I don't know, but anyways, turned out I had 2 tumors. I had a tumor on the inside of my thigh and another tumor that was attached to one of my inguinal lymph nodes, which inguinal lymph nodes, that's your lymph nodes in the crease of your leg. So this became stage 3 melanoma. It was not a mole, there was no markings, and I'll quote the words of the nurse at the biopsy for my inner thigh. She thought it was a bug bite, because that's all it looked like. It was kind of a red irritation on the leg, and that was it. So don't think melanoma is always just some black mole. That was my first one, but this second time around, it looked nothing like your typical what they preach about melanoma. So the plan was to have immunotherapy. I had a one and done with that because I ended up in the hospital, super sick. I stayed in the hospital for about 9 days, and they couldn't determine what the issue was, but I ended up leaving the hospital more sick than when I arrived. Go figure why I was discharged. So a couple days later, I go see my oncologist after being discharged in a wheelchair, weaker than when the last time he saw me, the one time in 9 days in the hospital. And he wanted to do another immunotherapy. Dude, do you not see what you're working with? Anyways, this is why I preach about just because they're a doctor doesn't mean you have to settle with them. And thank goodness that was not settled upon. My mom took an initiative and got me into another cancer center, and they saved my life. She drove me to the hospital that was about 4 hours, 2 hours. I don't remember now. It's kind of a blur, which is really sad. But she ended up driving me to the hospital or the cancer center, and the first initial consult with the oncologist, he said, yes, we are admitting you into the hospital, and thank goodness, because my organs were shutting down as a side effect from the immunotherapy. Not only did I have the side effects of the immunotherapy, but organs shutting down, I also had sepsis and cellulitis because of the biopsy that was taken. The core needle biopsy that was taken from my inner thigh ended up getting infected. That's an understatement. So I'm pretty sure I lost 3 days of my life because I don't remember. And remember, it's COVID, so these last 2 hospital stays, I am literally by myself. There's nobody communicating with my family except for nurses or if they call in, etc., etc. So they finally get me back to health. Before I can be released, I get a blood transfusion, and I am on my way to recovery. So I get home and have to take at least 21 pills a day. I'm not exaggerating. Steroids, all that kind of stuff to get me back to health, because at this point you have to be taken off steroids before you start any kind of chemo, surgery, anything like that. So it was determined we were not going to do immunotherapy, even if it was just the one, because it was a combo immunotherapy. So we just did we talked about maybe doing the one, but they said no way. So I ended up having surgery. So I now have 3 clips in my inner thigh and 15 clips in my gleanal lymph nodes. Well, there's no more lymph nodes. They got removed. And I now have an indention in my leg from the amount of space and infected tissue from the tumor in the thigh. And I now suffer lymphedema because there are no lymph nodes in that leg to supply the fluid to move. So I have a machine that I do every hour or every day for 1 hour to help process those fluids through my body and that limb. After healing from the surgery, ended up trying 2 combos of chemo pills, and both of them landed me in the hospital. I ended up getting super high fevers, 105, cooling mats being used, all that kind of stuff. It was an infection my body was fighting real bad, and so I had to be taken off of those. So the immunotherapy and the chemo pills that I was supposed to take for 1 year, and also was supposed to decrease my chances of getting the melanoma because I have a BRAF positive gene, is now back to a higher level of chance of getting reoccurrence. I since have been hospitalized twice for pancreatitis. I also deal with that because of high triglycerides, and I am now diabetic. I now have a thyroid issue, just a lot going on. I have now had 2 excisional biopsies done on both legs. I used to have just 1 bad leg. Now I have 2 bad legs. The one is still better than the other, but it was a pretty deep cut. So that's my story in a nutshell. I left out, believe it or not, a lot of details and a lot of side effects and things that have happened, and that's why I created this page, to make people aware of just because you're cancer free doesn't make you free from cancer. Cancer patients, after treatment, they deal with side effects basically for the rest of their life. So that's it. That's me. That's my 3 cancers, and hopefully that's it. No more cancer for me. I go to the cancer center every 3 months, 6 months, I don't know. That kind of goes back and forth depending on activity in my body. And my next one is next month. I get scans done. I get scans of my abdomen, and I get scans done of my leg, and I get a brain MRI scan done once a year, because melanoma loves to travel to the brain, and that's where it's not good. So, all right, that's me.